Welcome to College Football Live. I'm Chris Cotter. A day after Baylor announced a sparkling new 27-man recruiting class, the Bears are once again plunged into a negative light. In connection with a libel lawsuit, a series of texts and emails released by University of Regents on Thursday alleges that Art Briles, members of his staff, and employees of the Athletic Association created a, quote, disciplinary black hole into which reports of misconduct such as drug use, physical assault, domestic violence, brandishing of guns, indecent exposure, and academic fraud disappeared. Our panel today, let me introduce the folks to you. Paul Feinbaum, Emmanuel Acho, and David Pollack are here. All right, you've read all the emails and Paula Levine and Mark Schlabach's excellent reporting on ESPN.com. Paul, does it change your opinion at all about Art Briles?
No, because, Chris, I already thought that he was one of the biggest outcasts in modern college football history. It makes it a little more disgusting, I think, broad-based, because you're actually seeing things that we only suspected. But in the end, I think he's the most toxic coach I have seen in many, many years. I don't think he has any hope of getting a job anywhere, and any president that would sit with him at a press conference is likely to get run out of office.
Yeah, I agree with you totally, Paul. In my opinion, everybody already knows what Art Briles has done. At least we have our opinion in our head. So seeing text messages, it just confirms what we already believe. I agree that I don't think you can hire him. I don't think that you can run the risk, because even at Texas, I was just there, and a coach that was at Baylor was still getting a whole bunch of different questions regarding what happened at Baylor, and he wasn't even the top dog that Art Briles is. So it doesn't change my opinion. I don't think it changes the population's opinion at all.
Well, it changed my opinion because it hit you right in the face. I mean, you get to see live and living color Art Briles texting and them covering things up. And guys, here's the issue. This isn't covering up like a little bitty injury, you know, fudging on the injury report. This is serious, serious stuff. I mean, when you're talking about all drugs, guns, the stuff to women, I mean, this isn't little stuff that just are a little deal. It's a big deal. It changed my opinion when I saw it, because now you know 100% without a shadow of a doubt that there was a lot of these things that happened. He did know about it, and he did try to cover it up. And there's no more feel. If anybody did feel sorry for Art or feel like he got treated poorly, I mean, this shows you that he got what he deserved in being fired.
And David, what's even more remarkable is the fact that there were people on that board of regents who wanted to bring him back and would have if they could have. And there are many fans out there, and you've heard from them, we've all heard from them, that defended him, that attacked the media. All of those people now, and those regents as well, look like complete and total fools at this point in time.
You know,
yeah, but I feel like Pollack. Yeah, go ahead. But I feel like there's nothing that we didn't already know.
Exactly.
You know, these text messages, yes, they may make some things bold in our face, but you can't act as if you didn't know any of these things already existed.
Yeah, but it's just like the Joe Mixon videotape. When you see it, and when you know it and when you see it happen, and you see it live, and you see those text messages, and you know exactly what he said, it becomes more real, and you understand that there is no ducking and dodging and hiding behind, I didn't know, and I didn't know this, I didn't know that. You know exactly what he knows now, or what he knew when he was making those decisions, and to me, that changed my opinion.
You know, Emmanuel, when you look at this, too, and kind of to David's point about that, it smacks you right in the face. It's smacking other schools and other programs in the face as well. Do you think this is going to be a game changer for other programs? Do schools now need to pay closer attention to how these situations are handled, really across the board?
It has to be a game changer. This is such a serious matter. We focus oftentimes, in my opinion, too much on what transpires on the field. But remember, you're also building men at universities. You're also building adults. It's not just about winning games. You're also trying to leave legacies for different individuals. I think coaches now will take things a lot more seriously behind the scenes, as well as what they say publicly. We all hear the quotes. We all hear the post-game interviews. But now the coaches are going to have to monitor what they say to other coaches in text messages as well.
Well, here's the thing for me, too. This isn't just coaches. This went beyond Art Briles. When you see the text messages of, that's the thing. There has to be checks and balances. The head coach cannot run the university and have all decision-making power and say, because then you lend yourself to this. Just like everything else in our country. I mean, I think you need checks and balances, and I think that presidents, ADs, they're going to have to be more transparent, and they're going to have to make sure that they understand that they should be held accountable, and they need to hold their coaches accountable for everything that happens and realize the coach isn't bigger than the program. The coach isn't bigger than all these people and all these bad things that were happening. So you better make sure that when you're in a position of power that you're using it, not using it for poor decisions.
I don't think it's going to change anything if Baylor gets away with it. And we're talking on one level about Matt Rule's great recruiting class, and on another level that suddenly this is going to be a game changer. College football coaches are always looking for an edge, and as disgusting as this story is, and it's the most disgusting I have seen in my lifetime, unless this university pays a serious price outside of public relations, I think other coaches and other universities will still try to get by. What these coaches are hired to do is win football games, and the fans in the stands really, in some respects, don't care about anything else but winning. They'll look past all of this because, frankly, Baylor did. And by the way, I don't think Baylor's the only school that's ever cut corners, that's ever harassed and humiliated people who tried to speak out. There are many other cases in this country of things just like this.
Paul, it's an age-old question.
Definitely.
I mean, who at Baylor pays the price? I mean, is it Matt Rule? Is it a kid who's 18 years old who wasn't even there when the program was under Art Briles? I mean, that's the question. Who is going to end up paying the price?
It's a great question, and I certainly don't want anyone on that campus that just showed up Wednesday or Matt Rule to have to pay for it. But unfortunately, in society, whether we're talking about criminal justice or in this case, unless a strong message is sent, I still believe, like I said, other schools will try to push the envelope. What you have to do is send a strong message that you cannot get away with this. Yes, I know Ken Starr was fired. Yes, I know the athletic director was fired. Guess what? He's got another job. Kendall Briles, he has another job. And until you put a sledgehammer to this university, which I think the NCAA should, then more schools will continue saying, you know what, we're not going to get caught, so let's try to get away with it.
I totally understand bringing down the hammer, but my thing, I was a guy that played. So if I show up to my university and now I get punished for something that happened or something that transpired before I ever stepped foot on campus, I just don't know if that's an appropriate response or if that's an appropriate reaction.
Here's my advice on that. Don't go to Baylor then, because the boosters and the Board of Regents, they built that stadium, that shrine to Art Briles with blood money. They were complicit in my mind. So if you're smart, you don't go there. You stay away from this. And again, I'm not talking specifically about the young men who went there, but they should have known better if this school gets leveled down the road.
The question then becomes, how many programs do you think are just totally clean? I mean, Baylor got caught, and those that got caught and those that participated should be punished accordingly. But to punish everyone?
There's like David said, there's a big difference in fudging on certain things and being complicit in what we are hearing in this particular case. And again, everyone can read this for themselves. But I mean, this is next level. I've never seen anything like this.
And let's keep in mind too, when it comes, guys, Matt Rule took this job with a long contract, and he understood that there could be more things coming down the pipe. And listen. When a university commits things like this and they do wrong, when you do wrong, you deserve to be punished. And the university deserves to be punished. I hate, and it stinks for everybody else that's not involved with it, but you kind of knew what you're getting into when you've heard about all these reports that were still out there and penalties could still come down.
You know, I think that certainly was the case when you looked at Matt Rule signing a 7-year deal when he first got to Waco. That they're going to give him time to work his way through all of these issues that he's going to have to deal with in years 2 and 3 and 4 before he can really start to put them behind him. That's a part of our conversation we're going to get to next year on College Football Live. The perception of this Baylor program and how long will it take for them really to get out from under the situation that they created themselves. That's coming up next.
If this right here were Alabama, or if it were the University of Miami, if it were a program that sparkled more than Baylor's does, because Baylor's had a lot of success, but they're new to success, I believe that we'd be covering this with a great deal more zeal, the entirety of this story, and holding more people accountable on this. And it makes me wonder sometimes whether we're interested in the crime or the criminal, or how famous the criminal is, because this has been a decent-sized story, but Baylor's gotten very good at things very fast, and this is about as corrupt as you could get and about as immoral as you can get.
Right, you heard from Dan Lebitard earlier today. Emmanuel, do you agree that this scandal would have been covered differently if it occurred at Alabama or even Texas instead of at Baylor?
No doubt about it. The wins are greater at Texas. The losses are covered more greatly at Texas. And the scandals definitely would have been covered greater at a bigger program. If this is in Alabama, you're going to hear about it. I don't think Saban would have even had a chance to give a rebuttal or give words like Art Briles did. I think he would have been ousted immediately. But again, it's Baylor. It's in Waco. It's not as prominent a university. They really just rose to stardom after Robert Griffin brought a Heisman to that city. Definitely would have been covered differently. I'm not sure if a penalty would have been any more severe, but it would have been covered differently for sure.
I don't know. I don't know if it would be covered differently. I'll say this. It took so long because of the lawsuits and because of what you can and can't say. And so it took a long time to get that out. And I think it probably would have happened elsewhere. But let's also not act like Baylor is Kansas in football. I mean, Baylor's also a team that went back-to-back Big 12 champions, and they had the sparkle. They had everything going for them. So it's not like Baylor was this just kind of side road project or little bitty school. I mean, they had tons of momentum and were doing great things. So I think I don't know how it would have been covered differently. I honestly don't, but I think that the process and how long it takes to get information sometimes we're so slowed, and it leaks out so slowly, and we can't get to the bottom of it. Now look how long down the road until we see visual evidence of text messages from Art Briles. So I don't know. I honestly don't know.
I agree with you, David. I don't think it really matters. I mean, this has been a tremendously large story since it first broke. Art Briles was a huge coach. This is not an off-Broadway program, as you said. And as far as what Lebitard said, I don't think it would have mattered. I mean, I can't tell you how many times on this program we're on other shows, the Baylor story has been the lead story. It's been investigated at the highest level by ESPN and outside the lines. And don't forget, Art Briles went on College Game Day, the biggest program in our business, and gave that absolutely pathetic mea culpa. So, with all due respect to Lebitard, I think he's completely and totally wrong on that subject.
The other thing we have to realize, too, is that because of all these lawsuits, the legal wrangling, you do have to wait sometimes for some of these files to be presented to the public. Well, the recounting here with this legal filing, they recalled a meeting with donors in which one allegedly said, quote, and Paul, I know you talked about donors earlier, if you mention Baylor's mission one more time, I'm going to throw up. I was promised the national championship. Now, if true, that's nauseating, but certainly not surprising, Paul. How long will it take for Baylor to improve upon its image when we read things like this in the filing?
Well, I mean, it all depends on what the final result of this is going to be. And back to Emmanuel's point and what David said, if the NCAA doesn't do anything, and right now the indications are they don't want anything to do with this case, then you'll hear more of that. Boosters want to win. I've seen this my entire life. I used to be an investigative reporter, and at the end of the day, even though people always feign having a moral compass when something happens, they don't care. And Baylor, I think, is worse because they are out there in Waco, as Emmanuel said, and there is an entitlement out there. And it's a different culture than many other places. So that line, to me, was not a big surprise at all.
Yeah, Cotter, I don't think that Baylor can recover. When you think about SMU, you still think about the fact that they got the death penalty. I don't think Baylor can recover from a statement when they overall said that they value winning football games more than they value human lives. That's not something, that's not an action that you can recover from.
I'll just say one thing. I think a lot of people would have said that about the Penn State situation. Mm-hmm. They can't recover. Unbelievable. They're in the Rose Bowl 3 years later. So I would caution anybody that says, they can't recover, they're not going to be back. There's programs that have bounced back, and Penn State is an example 3 years ago that went through something that was disgusting on every level. And you look at them, they participated in a Rose Bowl this year.
Let's also not forget that at Baylor, less than 15 years ago, you had a basketball player murder one of his teammates, and a head coach cover that up. And we don't really talk that much about that anymore.
Which goes to show that they are not going to learn from anything other than shutting this program down. And I know that nobody wants to hear that, but I frankly believe Baylor needs to be shut down. It's the only way to send the right message, and it's the only way to send the message to other schools to never do this again.
That's pretty harsh, Paul. I just don't think we're going to see that as
No,
far as
but-
part of the punishment. All right, when we come back, talking about 5